Well, right, so today is the introduction to these subjects, part 2. And last week, you don't have to make any notes right now, right? Last week, you all saw this diagram, and I trust everyone has this diagram in their book by now, because for homework, you were supposed to draw it back very, very neatly in your books. And I encourage everyone to do what? Put colors. How much of you can honestly say that you have this in your books because you did the homework as well as instructed? And remember, even if you missed class last week, guys, let me just get this, well, obviously off the recording. So last week, these were the different parts of a cell, the animal cell and the plant cell. So just some basic questions about it. Which part of the cell produces energy? All this energy that you have right now for your heart to beat, for your brain to work, for you to move your hands and feet and whatnot. What part of the cell produces energy? Simple question, right? The mitochondria. Great, guys. So the mitochondria, right, which is kind of like the orange part of the cell, and both the plant and animal cell have a mitochondria. The mitochondria produces energy. And another word, not exactly the same, but energy is also referred to as ATP. We're not going to go into great detail of why energy is also called ATP, but the point is the mitochondria produces energy. All right, which part of the cell produces or creates, or a fancy word for creates is a synthesize, proteins? So which part of the cell is responsible for creating proteins? And proteins make up all your muscles and all your tissues. Which one? Right. And a lot of correct answers are coming up again. That's good. That's good. Come, guys, just make an attempt. Even if you're not too sure, just make an attempt. The ribosomes, I'm circling it in blue there, are responsible for creating proteins. Okay. Another thing, who is responsible for allowing things to go into the cell and leave the cell? Who is the security system for the cell? Because things can't just go into the cell. You won't want bacteria and viruses going into your cell, or harmful toxins going into your cell. And of course, you don't want things like your mitochondria leaving your cell. So who is the security system of your cell? Correct answer, not the vacuole, not the vacuole, right? It's the cell membrane. You see the dashed line going around your cell? That wall going around your cell actually has small holes in it. And the small holes kind of determine who goes in and who leaves. Things that are too big won't get to go through the small holes, right? But the point is, the cell membrane, which is the dashed line, and both the animal cell and the plant cell have a dashed line. They are like the security system of the cell. So I just put in the word here, security system. All right. Which one is more rigid? Like, which one is more solid? Like, if you were to put it on a table, it would keep its shape. Which one is better at keeping its shape? The animal cell or the plant cell? It would be the plant cell. The plant cell, let me get different, I'm running out of colors here. The plant cell is more rigid. Okay, let me explain why. Think of it as a balloon, like a balloon that's kind of half filled with water, right? It's not real filled. An animal cell, if you put it on a table, it won't retain the shape. Like the gravity will kind of pull it down like this, right? This is more balloony, if that's a word. All right. But the plant cells have this thing, it has two things. It has a cell wall. The cell wall is like a layer of bricks around the cell. So it helps the cell to keep its shape, okay? The plant cell has a cell wall. You get, and I'm going to put the word, it's like a layer of bricks around, okay? That helps keep the cell in a particular shape. The animal cell does not have a cell wall. Also, who has the bigger vacuole? The animal cell or the plant cell? Right now, we're not doing any writing. We are just, this is just revision at the beginning of class. Do not just answer the question. That's all we're doing. The plant cell has a larger vacuole. If you look at it here, right? A plant cell has a very large vacuole, but the animal cells have these small, tiny, tiny vacuoles. There are two things that actually help the plant cell keep its shape: the cell wall and the vacuole, because the plant cell has such a huge vacuole. It's like a piece of pressure inside of the cell that pushes against the cell. So in the exam, if they ask you what helps plant cells, right? I just got distracted by a small question there, right? I'll answer it just now. If in the exam, right, they ask you what in a plant cell helps the cell keep its shape, please don't only say the cell wall. That's a trick question, because it's actually two things that help it keep its shape: the large vacuole and the cell wall. Okay? It's two things. And yes, well, the bacteria, and what somebody asks about bacteria. Now, if the bacteria has a cell wall, it helps keeps the shape also. But the cell wall of a bacteria and the cell wall of a plant cell are made up of two different materials. I don't want to sidetrack too much, right? But the cell wall of a plant cell is way stronger than the cell wall of a bacteria. All right, so that's just some, how you say, that's just a little bit of revision there, okay? Let's move on to the official exam from, not exam, the quiz from last week, okay? Once again, there's nothing to take down there, and there's nothing right now to take down. When I want you to take down something, I will let you. So you all remember this from last week, right? Sergeant Judy is going to ask us a few questions. I believe it was about 4 or 5 questions. Let's get started. Without looking back in your books, could you all tell me the answer for this one? Because last week I made you take down this question and the answer, but I want you to not look back and tell me what the answer is. Good luck and send it across. Pretty good, right? The answer for this one was D. And last week, for getting it correct, you would get a fake $5. I hope you all keeping track of the money, right? So the thing about it, right? The vacuole is present in both the plant cell and the animal cell. But one major difference, and you saw it just now, the plant cell has a large vacuole. Animal cells have these tiny, tiny vacuoles. Now, obviously, a large vacuole and a small vacuole are going to operate slightly different. They might have some similarities, but there's a reason one is big and one is small, right? And these were the differences. I have it correct now. Last week, I had it reversed by mistake, right? In an animal cell, the vacuole is only used for storing waste and small molecules, right? These small molecules could be like what? Food, little pieces of food, and well, cell food and whatnot. You don't have to worry exactly what is the cell food right now, food. But in the exam, if you just say storing waste and small molecules, you'll get your full marks. The plant cell, because the vacuole is so large, It actually has three major functions. It helps maintain the cell's structure. We discussed this just now. In other words, the first point is about it helps the cell to keep its shape. That's called being rigid. So the vacuole works kind of with the cell wall to give the plant cell a particular shape. And it's be kind of rectangular. Not all the times it's be rectangular-ish. Sometimes it is look almost like a pentagon or a hexagon, but it keeps the shape. The plant cell also stores molecules like storing nutrients, it stores waste products and sometimes pigments. Pigments are things that give like the cell a color or something like that. And it also helps to regulate the amount of water in the cell, right? So this is strictly from last week. If you missed last week, you won't have time to take this down now, but I'll give you 10 seconds to take a screenshot. And of course, you can add it into your notes for last week, or you can just wait for the recording to come out and you can make full notes. Let me know when you are ready to move on, and we will move on. Right. So somebody had a question, right? Too good. Right. Well, this word here, right? This just means that the cell, you see how it have a vacuole here, right? It have a kind of pressure. It's pushing outwards, right? It's like you can think of this as filled, when it's filled with a liquid and the liquid is pushing outwards. That's called, that is what that word basically means, that it's pressing outwards. And that pressing outwards, it's helping the cell to keep its shape, right? So let's look at the second question. All right, think it through, right? Do me a favor, write down the question and then answer the question. Write down the question and then answer it. Good luck. Question. The first one, A, does the nucleus control the cell activities? I think I remembered last week saying that the nucleus is the boss of the cell. The nucleus is the boss of the cell. He actually tells everybody what to do. He bosses everybody around. He will tell the mitochondria what to do. He will tell Mr. Chloroplast what to do, right? So this is true. He does control all the cell activities. We mentioned this morning that a ribosome, right? That a ribosome does make proteins. That was one of the first things I reminded you all of this morning. And everybody knows part C is 100% true because it does produce energy. So the only obvious answer left is what? The lysosome, right? The lysosome does not deal with DNA replication. This is completely false. Quick question. Who do you think from the list there deals or is associated with DNA replication? Who is mostly involved in that? DNA replication. And just in case they ask you that, it's the nucleus, right? The person who, the nucleus does plenty things. One of the things it does is control cell activities. But when it comes to like copying your DNA and whatnot, the nucleus is also involved in DNA replication. So obviously the number one question here is, what does the lysosome do if it doesn't deal with what, right? The DNA replication. And I have a little note here, okay? So the part of the cell responsible for DNA replication is actually the nucleus. But I now said that, right? I get tight on here. Eukaryotic cells. In case you don't know what this fancy word means, in case they use it in the exam, I have an explanation, right? Eukaryotic cells are cells that have a nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Let me break that down for you. I know some of you are scratching your heads, right? Let's look at the plant and animal cell, right? So I have a little picture here, right? Eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, right? Do plant and animal cells have a nucleus? Yes, right? Look at this. Plant and animal cells both have a nucleus. And also, they have membrane-bound organelles. You all remember what organelles are? Organelles are things that live inside of the cell. Things like the mitochondria or the chloroplast. Tell me something. I know around the cell, it has a membrane. That's the dashed line. Look at the animal cell. There's a membrane around it. The plant cell also has a membrane around it. But do you think that the mitochondria and things like the chloroplast, do you think those things have a membrane around it also? Well, what do you think? If you zoom into the mitochondria or the chloroplast, do you think that there will be a dashed line around it also? Yes or no? The answer is yes. The entire cell has a security system around it. But each individual organelle, the nucleus, the mitochondria, the chloroplast, right? I'm not too sure about the vacuoles, right? But the parts, the big parts, right? Each individual organelle also has a separate security system because the mitochondria needs to control who is going into the mitochondria and who is what? Leaving the mitochondria. It's just like you have a house, right? Your house will have a security system, like a door. Well, I hope your house have a door, right? But doesn't each individual room in a house also have its own door? Like your room, I hope your room also has a door. So the house has a door, but each individual room in the house also has a door, has its own security system. Anytime a cell in nature has these two things, if it has a nucleus and if the smaller particles inside of it, the organelles, also have membranes, it falls into a special category of cells called eukaryotic cells. So you're probably wondering, right? Aren't all cells eukaryotic? Aren't all cells supposed to have a nucleus and the organelles supposed to have membranes around it? No, not all cells in nature have that. For example, anybody knows what kind of cell is this? Like what organism is this? Where the pink arrow is. What is that on the screen there? What is that on? That's a bacteria, right? Now, a bacteria is a single cell. But here's what. Is a bacteria a plant or an animal? Well, what do you all think? Is a bacteria a plant or an animal? Ah, somebody did not fall for my trick. That's a trick question, guys. A bacteria is not a plant and it's not an animal. Bacteria fall in a completely different category in nature. Yes, and for those who were here over the summer, right? I know some of you were not here. You see, when you point out something that is living, most people say, well, if something is living, it's either a plant or an animal. There are other categories of living things, right? For the time being, to keep it simple, a bacteria is a totally different what? It's a totally different form of life. And a bacteria is not eukaryotic. Why is that? First of all, bacteria, if you look at this diagram, I'm sorry for the small diagram, a bacteria does not have a nucleus. It simply does not have a nucleus. And the things that live inside of the bacteria do not have membranes. So you cannot classify a bacteria as a eukaryotic cell. Okay? Right. So that was just a brief thing there, right? So what does the lysosome actually do? Well, I have it on the screen here. All living things produce waste. You produce waste, right? You cannot be a living organism and produce waste. Well, lysosomes are organisms that help break down waste inside of the cell and cellular debris, well, garbage. All living things produce garbage inside their bodies or waste. It's a good idea to try to break down those things and get rid of it. Because if your body is producing waste and materials that are considered garbage, it's probably not a good idea to keep it in your body, right? You need to break it down and get rid of it. Who does that? Lysosomes. So if you lose all your lysosomes right now, you will die because all that waste will begin to build up and build up in your body, become toxic, and then you die, right? Right. So, by the way, a bacteria does have a cell membrane, right? I know it's written, sorry, it does have a cell membrane, right? But it also has a cell wall. So sorry about this, the small writing. The main, I'm sorry, the main focus today wasn't really the bacteria, but a bacteria does have a cell wall. I wrote the word there. So bacteria are able to keep a kind of shape because they do have a cell wall. Guys, do me a favor. If you got it correct, right? If you got it correct, write down your $10. You deserve your $10. And please take down everything on the screen except for this, this, and this. Right? But you're taking down everything else. Let me know when you are finished. And this is question 2. Right? You're going to realize the purpose of these questions is not the actual answer. Like the answer for lysosomes is D. I use these questions as an excuse to kind of explain further things about the topic. So while the answer is D, by explaining the answer is D, you learn a lot of other new things. Let's see question 3, right? Good luck, right? Right. So I have all my explanations ready here. The answer for this one is B. If a cell chloroplast is damaged, right? Now, by the way, only plant cells have chloroplast, right? Now, I have a diagram of a plant cell here. Everyone is very familiar with it. This green-looking organelle, right, with a little barrier around it, that's called your chloroplast. Inside, now the whole organelle is called a chloroplast, but the chloroplast has a liquid inside of it. What's the liquid inside of the chloroplast? The entire organelle is called a chloroplast, but it contains a liquid. Anybody wants to tell me the name of the liquid inside the chloroplast? It also starts with the letter C. It's called chlorophyll. So the chloroplast contains a liquid called chlorophyll. And this only exists in a plant cell. It doesn't really exist in the animal cell. So why do plants need a chloroplast? Well, plants do something called a process called photosynthesis, and you'll see it on the screen here. You see, plants cannot create their own food. Like, for example, let us pretend we went back 10,000 years. So let's say you're a caveman or a cavewoman, right? And you wanted food. Now remember, humans are animals. At the end of the day, scientifically, we are animals, right? If you wanted food, you had to go hunt for your food. So you'll get your spear, you'll get your little cave axe, and you'll make little cave songs and run out the cave, and of course, try to kill a mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger. When you are hungry as an animal, you can go hunt for food. Plants generally, I know some of you are going to quote some exceptions to the rule, but plants cannot go hunting for food. If a plant is hungry, he can grab a spear and go kill a mammoth to get food. Instead, a plant has to create its own food. So how does a plant create its own food? Once again, it's a process called photosynthesis. What the plant will do, it will take carbon dioxide from the air, it will take water from the ground using its roots, obviously, because a plant has roots, and then it will combine it with sunlight. And when the plant combines these three things, you get two things: glucose and oxygen. Glucose is basically plant food. So you see how easy a plant, well, I won't say easy, but you see how cool a plant can create its own food. Glucose is plant food, right? At the end of the day. In fact, glucose is also animal food, but we don't make our own glucose. We hunt for our own glucose. But I still really haven't answered the question totally, right? What does the chloroplast do? I never explained that. Anybody want to tell me what the chloroplast and the chlorophyll actually do? We know it has something to do with photosynthesis, but I technically did not say exactly what the chlorophyll inside the chloroplast does. So I've seen some wrong answers and I've seen some correct answers. Somebody says, not somebody, a few people said, right? Well, by the way, chlorophyll is green in color. That's true. Chlorophyll has a greenish color. And yes, the chlorophyll inside the cells, because it's green, it makes plants look green. But the leaves of most plants that what? Look green. But that doesn't answer the question. Does being green explain how that allows the plant to perform photosynthesis? No, that does not explain the question. Doesn't the plant need sunlight? Without sunlight, photosynthesis cannot happen. Chlorophyll helps the plant to absorb sunlight. It's like solar panel cells for the plant. See, the chlorophyll traps the sunlight inside of the cell, and without that, it cannot trap the sunlight, so to mix the water and the carbon dioxide. Okay? So that's the full answer. Also, you all will notice something, right? That you all remember the respiration, you all remember the respiration formula from last week? In case you didn't realize, right? Photosynthesis helps the plant to produce glucose. What does the plant do with the glucose? What it will do, it will send the glucose to the mitochondria. which is this part of the cell here, right? This is the mitochondria. And then inside the mitochondria, it will produce energy by a process called respiration. In the mitochondria, once the glucose enters the cell and you mix it with oxygen from the atmosphere, you get four things: carbon dioxide, water, energy, which is the important part because the plant needs energy, and you get somewhat heat. So photosynthesis and respiration kind of work hand in hand. The photosynthesis will produce the glucose, and then the plant will use the glucose to create energy. Now, on the syllabus, there are two types of respiration, right? There are two types of respiration. One called aerobic respiration. I have it AEROBIC respiration, and another one called anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration involves oxygen. Anytime you hear the word aerobic in biology, that means oxygen is involved. And you notice this type of respiration involves oxygen. It mixes the glucose and oxygen. I know some of you all are wondering, how does anaerobic respiration work? How does an organism create energy without oxygen? That will be later down on the syllabus. Okay? So I want everyone to take down everything on the screen here, right? And I want to answer one question, right? So someone asked this question, right? Remember, for a plant to produce food, it needs three things: carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. And well, it needs the chlorophyll to trap the sunlight. A cactus, let me draw a cactus here. Let's say we have a cactus. So this is a cactus in the desert here, right? Let me get some other stuff here. Right. So we all know how a cactus is. Let me draw a better diagram. Right. That's a cactus there, right? Let me just make sure I get the question. Someone made the assumption that a cactus does not get water, right? Right. So tell me, is that true? I know a cactus lives in the desert, but is it fair to say that a cactus never gets water? Is that a fair assumption? No. Believe me, I know the desert is pretty dry, but it does rain from time to time. Like it might rain twice for the year in the desert, or once for the year. But the point is, a cactus does get water. It just gets a little bit of water. But cactus are very resourceful. They're resilient. Even though they get a little bit of water, partner, they just make good use of it. They store the water. Every drop of water, they just store it. Also, some cactus, how much of you all have dragon fruits? Dragon fruits at home. A dragon fruit plant is a type of cactus. If you all look at a dragon fruit plant and other cactus too, it does have these little things coming out of it. It does look like, how you say, like hairs coming out of it. Those hairs, sorry, actually absorb water from the atmosphere because the air around you, like the air, I'm not talking about the roots of the plant, the air around you right now has a little bit of water in it. It has water vapor. These hairs can actually absorb water from the air. It's a little bit of water, but the cactus will how you say, squander every drop of it and make use of it. So don't ever make the mistake and say a cactus does not get water. It gets water, right? And someone asks, how would the chloroplast of a plant get damaged? If I take a leaf and I crush it, or an animal bites the leaf, couldn't they potentially damage the cells in the leaf? And just by hitting it, or how you say, a brick falling on the leaf, it will squash the leaf. And of course, the leaves are made up of cells. It can actually damage the cells in the leaf and damage the chloroplast, right? When you're finished with everything on the screen, let me know and we will move on. Let's go. Right. Right. Number 4. Which of the following statements is true regarding viruses and bacteria? This was almost, I think it was almost the first thing we did last week. So I'm hoping nobody gets this wrong. The answer for this one is, oh Lord, it was C. Both contain genetic material. All right. Let me go through the different answers. First of all, viruses are not considered to be alive. Remember, that was one of the first things questions I had asked last week. Are viruses considered to be alive in science? No, viruses, by all definitions, are dead. It's almost like a robot. A robot can move, do things to simulate life, but a robot is not considered alive. A virus is like that. Bacteria is considered alive. So bacteria is alive. Fine. If a virus cannot reproduce outside a host, in fact, a virus cannot really do much of anything outside a host. For a virus to do anything useful, it has to invade your body and live inside your body. It cannot reproduce. Bacteria can reproduce. A bacteria don't need you, right, to reproduce. So A is wrong. Both have a cell wall. That's also wrong. Bacteria have a cell wall. If you look at the diagram of a virus, it has no cell wall. If you didn't know, now you know. Both contain genetic material. But genetic material is like DNA. Yes, bacteria and viruses have DNA in it. So that's why this one is the correct one. Both can be killed by antibiotics. Now, no one was supposed to choose D, all right? Right? By the way, bacteria does have a type of cytoplasm. It's just not in the diagram, right? But remember, all of these things are floating around in the cell. So inside the cell, there must be some sort of cytoplasm, okay? It's just not, I didn't get a chance to label every single thing in the diagram, okay? Now, why am I saying that nobody is supposed to choose D at the as the answer? COVID-19, was that a virus or is that a bacteria? When the whole pandemic was going on, right? Was that a virus or a bacteria? And we now know a virus and a bacteria are two totally different things, right? You might think it's the same thing, but under the microscope, they are two different types of things. Right. Remember COVID-19? I'll just put in the word here. COVID-19 was a virus. Could you take antibiotics to get rid of COVID-19? Did any doctor ever go on a platform or say that you could take I know when you get sick, people just take antibiotics, right? No, right? Antibiotics, those tablets only work on bacteria. They don't work on viruses. If you want to kill bacteria, you use antibiotics. Only a crazy doctor would give, or a fake doctor would ever give you antibiotics to try to kill a virus infestation in your body. That is pure madness, right? Okay, right. So I want everyone to take down the question that's on the screen, right? You don't have to draw the diagrams because you already have this. And if not, you will get this. I don't care for you to take that down. Take down the question and the little note inside the little sun diagram here, right? All right. Oh, we have a little. Y'all remember the adventure from last week, right? Y'all were touring the Caribbean in its search of treasure. So while flying to St. Kitts and Nevis, your ship runs into a flock of birds and it causes your ship to shake and some items fell out. How much of y'all saved the piece of paper from last week? Remember last week you collected some items? I really, really, really hope that you all kept the piece of paper from last week. Choose a color. You're going to lose some items. So whatever you pick, you're going to have to scratch off things off that paper. All right. So choose a color, guys. Let's see if you get lucky or unlucky. What items did you lose? You have 4 colors. Choose one. Let's see if you got lucky here, guys. For those who chose green, you lost 1 item. So scratch off any 1 item of your choice. For those who chose yellow, you lost items. It's up to you to scratch off any 2 items and you'll get that. So the lucky colors were red and blue because you lose no items. You lost none of your items. All right, let's get ready to move on. All right, so let's see what's going on with poor Jimmy here. Jimmy, do all the cells look the same? Let's keep it simple. Let's talk about animal cells. Do you think all animal cells look the same? So let's hear what GB has to say. Albert, dear Albert. A cell is a cell. A cell is like a dog. They all look the same. But I can't even imagine how much wrong things Jibi's saying there. All right. Okay. First of all, if an alien comes to Earth, right? So that's why I have an alien here. And his job is to record or draw sketches of any strange animals he sees on Earth. So when the alien comes to Earth, the first thing he happens to bounce up is a dog. So he draws a picture of the dog. So let's say he's a very terrible drawer, and this is the picture of the dog he draws. He draws a little snout, some ears, he draws 2 ears, right? He draw a little body like this, tail and 4 legs, right? So that is what he draw. And then he goes back to his planet and he tells everybody, I have just discovered a very new organism. I call it the dog, right? Do you think all dogs on Earth look like his sketch? Well, what do you all think? Well, when his superiors look at his very high-tech diagram of the dog, do all dogs look like the sketch? No, right? He just saw 1 dog, or he probably saw a couple of dogs, and he drew a general diagram. But we know all dogs, well, most dogs look different. Like a German Shepherd would have a completely different shape to a poodle or a pit bull. And don't get me wrong, all dogs have something in common. Yeah, they have a snout, they have a nose, they have eyes, they have 4 legs, they have a general shape, I guess, of the body. But it's really, really, really a disservice to say all dogs look exactly the same. Okay? Clearly madness. The same thing goes for a cell. Whenever they draw a diagram of an animal cell or a plant cell, do you think that if you take a microscope and zoom into every part of your body, like you look at the cells inside your heart or the cells inside your brain or the cells that make up your muscles or the inside of your ears or your bones. Your bones are made up of cells. Do you think all the cells will look the same? No. This diagram of a plant and animal cell is a generic diagram, just like how the alien drew a genetic diagram of a dog. It's just a kind of approximation of how it looks. So today, we're going to investigate not all the different cells in your body, right? But just the ones that are on the syllabus. The cells are going to look drastically different, but they will all have something in common. All of them will have a nucleus. All of them will have what? A mitochondria. All of them will have ribosomes. But even though they have things in common, they will have certain things that are different, especially their shapes. So let's move on to the next slide. And don't worry, you're not going to have things when I go to the next slide. Some slides are going to have plenty writing and complex diagrams. If it's too much and too complex, I will ask you all to take a screenshot. So don't blow them out when I go to the next slide. This here is just clearly for talking, right? I'm not going to make you draw these complex diagrams, okay? Right. So these cells, the first types of cells we're going to be talking about, right, is epithelial cells. I'm tight tongue, sorry guys, epithelial cells. This is a general category of cells. Skin, everybody has skin on them. I hope you have your skin, right? Otherwise, that'll be very, very painful. So this is basically how skin cells look, right? So if we just take a little zoom in here. So by the way, this here is a picture of a cell. I'm not going to make you draw too. Sorry, I'm mixing up myself. Epithelial cells are like protection cells. Your skin is a layer of protection. And if you zoom in to your skin, you will see that the cells have a particular look. Also, epithelial cells can be found on the inside of organs. For example, when you're breathing in, right, you know the air will go into your mouth and go down a tube into your lungs. The inside of that tube, right, the walls of that tube have cells, and they look kind of strange. They look kind of like this here. Yeah, I'm not asking you to draw this, don't worry, right? Also, the inside of your stomach and intestines, they need a layer of protection, because when food is going through your intestines or your stomach, there's a layer of cells that protects the food from damaging the walls of your intestines. All of these cells, whether it's your skin or the inside of your organs for protection, they're called epithelial cells. Now, I have an explanation on the next slide. I want everyone to read, and by the way, this here is a general diagram of how the epithelial cells look. And some of those cells have hair on it, right? Can anybody tell me why cells have some cells have hairs on it? I'm not talking about the hairs on your head or the hairs that are on the outside of your arm. Let me just go back to the next slide. I kind of rushed this up. When you are breathing in air from the outside, you see this area here? It is have little hairs on the inside of your breathing tracts. I'll give you the answer. And when you breathe it in and you can take down dust, do you want that dust to get into your lungs? The answer is no. So what will happen? The hairs on the inside of your breathing tract will trap the dust, and then the hairs will gradually move upwards and push the dust back into your mouth or your nose where you can breathe it out. right? So some epithelial cells have hairs on them to trap dust, right? Not all of them, right? Do you think the ones in your intestines will have hairs? Well, what do you all think? The epithelial cells, do you think those will have hair on it? The answer is no, because there's already dust on thing inside of the intestines, all right? Do me a favor. I want everyone to read everything here. Draw this diagram, right? So in other words, take down everything on the screen, read it, and then I want to explain it, right? So some epithelial cells produce mucus. Not all of them produce what? Mucus. So my question to you is mucus a good thing or is mucus a bad thing? In which epithelial cells can you find mucus? Let me just draw a little diagram here. Where can I draw? Let's say I have somebody here. This is his eyes, and he has his mouth open here, right? So he has his mouth open here. And of course, he's going to breathe in. So he's going to breathe in, right? And this air is going to go to his lungs, right? So this is his lungs here. Remember, when you breathe in air, by the way, the epithelial cells are found in when it's going down the tract here. So air is coming in. Now remember, air has things like dust. It even has things like bacteria in it. When you breathe in, right, you don't want dust and bacteria to get into your lungs. Now, these cells will have hairs on it that will trap the dust. Fair enough, I mentioned that as well. But some cells produce mucus. Tell me something. Well, we all know mucus is kind of sticky. Do you think the mucus will help the cilia? Like the cilia is already trapping what? Dust. Do you think the mucus will also help trap dust and bacteria? Well, what do you all think? I think the answer is yes. So it actually, because the mucus is so sticky, it it does a very, very good job at also trapping dust and bacteria. And once the dust and bacteria are trapped, because the mucus will mix up with the hairs, right? The cilia. So, and once the dust and the bacteria get trapped, the hairs, along with the mucus, will move upwards and push all that dust and bacteria back up to your mouth or your nose, where you can, well, basically spit it out. So, is mucus good? Yes. Okay. Mucus is actually a good thing, but obviously, too much mucus is a bad thing because when you have too much mucus, well, that's a sign that you are sick and it becomes very, very annoying. But all healthy humans produce a certain amount of mucus. Right now, if you are feeling good and you're not feeling sick, you are producing mucus, just not an annoying amount. You're producing the right amount to trap dust and bacteria that's trying to get into your lungs. Okay? Great. How much people are finished with everything on the screen and are ready to move on? I can always go back to this at the end of class. All right, so you all deserve a small break there because a lot of notes you took. You finally make it to the Great Hill in St. Kitts. That's actually a real place in St. Kitts. It's windy, but you land and start to search the hills for treasure. Where do you all want to search? In a yellow, green, red, or blue region? Search one of the regions and let's see what you find if you get lucky with any treasure. All right, let's see if you guys got lucky. The green region was the unlucky region. For those who searched the red region, you found a skull. That could be very valuable. Yellow is an American coin, so write down American coin if you chose the yellow. And the blue was a pirate gold coin. All right, so write down what you got. Sorry for those who chose green. That was the unlucky choice. Get ready to go. All right, so we're moving on to a different type of cell. So what other type of cells can you find in the human body? So let's see what Gibby has to say. You're going to bounce up a term called haploid nucleus. What does haploid mean? Well, we all know what the nucleus of a cell is. Here we have a generic diagram of a cell, and we know over here is the nucleus, right? Great. But what is a haploid nucleus? Well, let's hear what Jimmy has to say. That's easy, Albert. That's a nucleus that has no faults. The hap stands for happy. So GB is saying that a haploid nucleus is a happy nucleus. I think we could all agree GB is talking nonsense as usual. Okay? So let's talk a little bit here. First of all, let's say this is you here. You are made up of what? Cells. Well, remember I told you that the most of the cells in your body, right? Sorry, all the cells in your body basically look different. If you go to different parts of your body, the cells would look different. What is responsible for making you look like you? Well, what part of the cell? Remember, everybody here has a different nose. Everybody has different color eyes. The texture of your hair is different. What makes you look like you? It starts with the letter C. We did it over the summer, but I don't want the one starting with D. I want the one starting with C. Right. Inside most of your cells in your body, not all, the majority of the cells in your body, there are things called chromosomes. Okay? The chromosomes in your body are found inside the nucleus in your cell. How many chromosomes do you have in the majority of cells? I keep using that word. 99.9% of all the cells in your body have how much chromosomes? See what you remember over the summer. If it wasn't here over the summer, don't worry, you'll get the answers soon enough. 46, right? So in case you didn't know, chromosomes look like squiggly worms. And you're supposed to have 46 chromosomes inside the majority of every cell in your body. Now, everybody, like if I take your 46 chromosomes and compare it to my 46 chromosomes, my chromosomes will obviously look different to your 46 chromosomes because I look different to you, right? Where do you get your 46 chromosomes from? Well, how much is half of 46? Anybody can divide, right? Half of 46 is what? 23. Remember, your parents made you. So that means you got 23 chromosomes from your dad, and you got 23 chromosomes from your mom. So when you were being created, half of your chromosomes came from your mom, and half your chromosomes came from your dad. That is why the child kind of resembles the mom and dad. or has similar traits to the mom and dad. The similar traits don't have to be physical traits, you know. It could be how you say genetic traits, things that are underneath the surface. Like you might look more like your mom, and you know some people don't resemble their dads, right? But your dad might have a certain heart condition, and you might be born with the same heart condition. So you resemble your dad in that sense, not physically, but sometimes you have internal things that resemble him, right? But the point is, 23 comes from your mom, 23 comes from your dad, right? Anytime a cell has 46 chromosomes, well, I will call this a normal cell. However, some cells have 23 and some cells have 23. Well, 23. The word hap kind of stands for half. You can think about it like that. Anytime a cell in your body has 23 chromosomes, you see, when your father is giving his 23 chromosomes to make you, that cell that is being used to make you only has 23 chromosomes. You call that a haploid cell. Well, a haploid nucleus, meaning that cell contains a nucleus with only half the amount of chromosomes. All right, so that is what it is in a nutshell, right? Haploid's nucleus only have 23 chromosomes, right? Okay. Right, everybody good there? A normal cell has 46 chromosomes and haploid cells only have half. Okay, well, when we're doing sexual reproduction, which is our entire topic, you're going to learn where these cells with the 23 chromosomes come from, but it's basically created during sexual reproduction. Okay, let's move on. Right, sperm cells. This is another type of cell that can be found in the human body. Tell me something. This is a sperm, right? Well, this is an obvious question, but well, I have the answer. Sperm cells are only found in males. Tell me something. If you put a sperm cell underneath a microscope, it looks like a kind of tadpole, right? Does that resemble the generic diagram of a cell? Look how strange a sperm cell looks. And remember, in textbooks, they usually draw a cell looking like a kind of oval. But sperm cells have a completely different what? Shape. But they will have things inside of it like a nucleus. It will have mitochondria. It will have ribosomes and everything inside it. But it's just shaped completely what? Different. And a sperm cell is a haploid cell. You know why it's called a haploid cell? Because sperm cells don't have 46 chromosomes in it. It only has how much chromosomes? 23. All right? I need for everyone to take down everything here for me properly. Yes, you need to draw this diagram properly. For me, I know you'll need 5 minutes. Okay? Let me know when you are finished. Right? Don't let this word get to you, right? The gamete, right? A gamete is just a special type of cell used in sexual reproduction. They just give it what? A special name. So anything that deals with sexual reproduction, males have sperm and women have eggs. A female gamete is the egg, which also has 23 chromosomes. The male gamete is the sperm. Right, yeah, that's the answer. One question. Yes, well, I know I answered it already. The sperm has 23 chromosomes. The egg from the female also has 23 chromosomes. So when the sperm meets the egg and the two fuse together, 23 plus 23 is, voila, 46.